is it's taking its absolute toll on me. So I probably needed to be actually asleep, and I quickly went to sleep.
Nice. Yeah, I'm glad.
So I have plenty of energy today, though. I know we're going to continue talking about gender roles, and I have to kind of point back to some things that I brought up before that are literally playing themselves out so that when people do listen to these conversations, they can see like this is not stuff that's just like a fairy tale that I'm making up. Like you can see it play out. So, Ozzy Osbourne passed away, I guess, today. They announced it today. Today is 7/22, 2025, which is an 8. So you have 7, 4, and 8. Um, numerically, but astrologically, the sun, not the sun, Mars is opposite the north node and is conjunct the south node. Now, I've been talking about how the north node energy is the feminine energy and the south node energy is masculine energy, and that's the direction that things need to be going. So when Mars, the god of war, conjunct with the south node, the masculine energy, look who got taken out. Ozzy Osbourne. Like he calls himself the Prince of Darkness. Now I have no idea about this man and his music or anything like that because I never listened to this kind of music growing up. I listen to live music, so I have no frame of reference. But from what other people have told me is that this was a man who was dedicated to the dark side. I mean, if you call yourself the Prince of Dark, actually, my friend said that after he ate a bird's head live on stage, that's when he started calling himself the Prince of Darkness, which sounds pretty incredible to me. But when you have Mars in conjunction with this energy, who's bad? Like who's really the bad man on campus when you got to actually come up against this actual energy? And something that was pointed out, and I want to point out to people, is when you make deals with these negatively polarized entities, you have to work until you're dead. Basically, like he just did the concert, I think like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and literally all these people was at the concert and everybody was crying and the man couldn't even stand up. All he could do was perform. That's it. And so this is why I caution people against working with these foreign gods, because you don't have control over your life. He couldn't even remember who he was, but he could remember those songs. And that's very a telltale sign of some kind of a contract. So there's a prophecy on, and I'll just bring this up for people who are interested in this kind of stuff. There's a prophecy in Second Esdras chapter 12 that talks about the three heads of the eagle, and I was just getting ready to dig into it, but you can find videos on it. People have been talking about this for a long time, so this is relevant again to this conversation because I think that these are the three heads. We had the queen, which I already talked about, the process leading up to her death, but the astrological part of that was you had the South Node conjunct Uranus and Mars less than 40 days from her death. That was in 2022. Then you had I call her the bride of Christ, right? That's the position that she took. Then you have the Pope. He died on um 420 or 421, I think it was actually the day after Easter, and it doesn't quite fit into the north node south node timeline as easily, but it does fit in the sense of this event that happened now is it's within a few months, so it's still in the timeline. But he called himself the vicar of Christ. I actually need to go back and look at the chart. I'm sure it does tie together. I'm sure I'll be making a video on this if you're interested in this kind of stuff. You can just look for it on my channel. I'm sure of it. And then today, of course, you have Mars conjunct the south node opposite the north node, and now you have the Prince of Darkness gone. So this to me fulfills that particular prophecy, which I'm going to have to go through and parse out because everyone who talks about it, they're always so general. So I'll be talking about that more, but it just ties into that energy. When you have the South Node energy, or back to the actual way the cycles work, this means that right now we're at a point in the cycle. This is the reset point for feminine energy. When Mars is opposite the North Node, which means it's conjunct with the South Node, that means that this is the start of a new 2-year cycle. So I went back to when this particular about 2-year cycle started. And wouldn't you know, it started on October the 7th, basically, of 2023, when that battle happened over there in that country with those people. And I look back at my videos on that time, and literally I was talking about how we needed to not only come together and embrace our own history, but also make sure that the choices that are set in front of us are ones that we are literally putting out there, because part of the problem is um what you put out you're supposed to receive back, and they've put a gap between us and the creator, and so because there's a gap, we're not getting back everything that we put out. And that also ties into the masculine and feminine energy too, because when males and females interact with each other, you're expecting to be reflected back what you're putting out, but there's a gap, there's a space. So let me talk about what that gap in that space is. So before I move on, because I'm gonna forget about this. This is the start of a new 2-year cycle for the feminine energies. This is a midpoint check-in for the masculine energies with the respect to the Mars, the North Node, and the South Node cycle. So you can go back and look to October the 7th if you are a feminine energy and see what was going on when this cycle started. And as of course, for our masculine energies, you can look at this point now and say, okay, um, what should be coming to light, because on the second half of the cycle, that's when you should be coming back towards the light. So when you have a conjunction, that's the lowest point, that's the darkest point, that's the most personal and private point. When you have the opposition, that's when you're in your full power, and the feminine or the other opposite energies in their full power. So for feminine should be in full power right now, masculine should be reflecting upon what has happened. So that's one of the reasons why for me this energy is extremely chaotic, because I'm supposed to be in my full power right now, and it doesn't feel like it. Like I can't discern that that's the actual case. So I'm trying to pull out from wherever what that looks like, what energy. And I literally asked before I went to sleep, I for my energy to be reflected back to me. And so I bring up the whole Ozzy thing is because that seems like my energy being reflected back to me, and my energy being a desire to see darkness eradicated from the planet in a negative way. People don't have to learn lessons through pain and suffering. People shouldn't have to be propagandized to do certain things. Everybody should have open, free access to their energy without this weird propaganda always getting in the mix of it. And I feel like that is what we're going to see a return to, because that's what the feminine energy is commanding. So when you have men and women in relationships together, they are supposed to be reflecting back to each other what they're receiving, but there's a gap. So what does that mean? What does that look like? I saw a post yesterday, and I've seen this many times, and so people will know what this is. When you have a regular mirror, like a regular standard mirror, and you put your finger up to the mirror, there's a gap between your finger and the reflection of your finger pointing back at you. Okay, there's a gap. However, there are mirrors where there is no gap. But for all intents and purposes, the way people see it right now, if you go up to a mirror and you don't see a gap, they're telling people that that means that mirror is being recorded. Like it's a two-way mirror. It's not a standard mirror. And so basically, people have just been so accustomed to the fact that there's a gap that they don't understand that the gap is actually not normal. It's not usual to have a mirror with a gap. That is a new creation. And so I ordered a mirror from India, which I haven't been, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but if you, it's, I saw a video about it, but it's a mirror that doesn't have a gap. Let me see if it's in this box. Oh no, it's not in here. Anyway, you can look it up. It's a mirror that it's like a magic mirror. It doesn't have a gap. So when you look into this mirror, it also isn't very bright. It's made through a very unique process. But it is a mirror nonetheless. So
You you fell out. You're on. Okay. Okay, you're back. Yeah,
I just okay. I'm sorry. I'm not even on the Wi-Fi today because it's raining. So that's weird. Um.
yeah, your
Okay.
quality
Sorry.
is great. Hmm.
Okay. Good. I was talking about the magic mirror. So, um, it's an Indian mirror. Anyway, you can look it up. I bought mine off of Etsy, but it's literally a mirror that when you look at it, there's no gap. When you put your finger up to it, there is no space. And so people are so unaware that it's actually not normal for there to be a gap between you and your reflection, that they have integrated this into their personality. So whereas what's supposed to happen is when you think about something, like when something comes into your mind and you begin to think about it, it's supposed to physically show up. Like there's not supposed to be a space, which is the gap between what you're thinking about and what shows up. It's supposed to match. That's why people who are like leaders or these excellent warriors, and people who can plan battles, when they think of a battle plan and go to execute it, they can see it show up. People also call this manifestation, but I just call it as it's a direct response to the energy that you put out. And so what happens is, um when you tell people that, yeah, when you think about something, it's supposed to show up, they say no, there has to be a gap, there has to be a space, because I've always observed a space. When I look at myself in the mirror, I've observed a space, and therefore that's how it's supposed to be. Well, that is part of the programming. So instead of you saying, in your mind, okay, I want to find a nice partner who does X, Y, and Z, and that partner just shows up, they have you now believe that you have to go out and search for this partner. This partner is unattainable. What you want is unattainable. You have to fix yourself because something's wrong with you that you can't attract this partner. And all of this was triggered because people, especially spiritual people right now, they keep repeating this line, and they're saying that um, if what's around you does not reflect what you want, then something is wrong. Like you are doing something wrong. And so I've heard this a long time. I've been in the motivational community a long time. So I've heard this a long time. And I knew that that wasn't true because there's interference, but I didn't have a good way of explaining it. So the mirror thing is really true. People think that there's supposed to be a gap because when you look in the mirror, the very mirror that you use every day to see how you look is also lying to you. It's not supposed to be a gap. When you look in the mirror, there's not supposed to be a space between you and your reflection. And basically, they have created a space, and that kind of magic mirror has spread out to the whole world. Now everyone believes that there's supposed to be a space. And so in order to reclaim that energy as a masculine or feminine energy, you first have to understand and you first have to ensure that there is no gap between what you want and what you have. Now, another layer trick that they added on top of that is there's a tarot card called the Seven of Cups. And so in the Seven of Cups, it's a guy with a bunch of cups in front of him, and they all have different things, which gives you the illusion of having a lot of choices. But some of the things are good, some of the things are bad, whatever the case may be. But the problem, or what happens, is people believe that they have this because cups, I've mentioned this before, but cups are illusional in nature. They're an illusion. So by putting all these choices in front of you, they make you think that these are all actual legitimate choices. But the truth of the matter is, excuse me, they are not choices. There's only one true reflection of what you desire, and it's what you have in your head. So back to the whole Ozzy Osbourne thing. My friend and I, we've been trying to figure out like what is going on with this. We're in this mystic column energy. It's extremely difficult, and we're trying to figure out energetically if we're seeing results, and that's always difficult. Most spiritual people have no idea how to quantify or track results. So I'm a results oriented person, so I'm looking for results. And so a lot of, like, there's been a great number of deaths in the last couple days. I just since this mystic column started last Monday, there's been a great number of deaths. There's been a lot of crazy stuff happening. So there's an incident right now that they're talking about with these police officers here in Jacksonville and all this stuff. And so they're trying to gather energy to recreate the Rodney King situation, because that happened in 1992, and they need that energy because they believe if they can recreate that, that they can send us back to that time period and get some more time. So the whole incident, it reeks of planning. And so I'm looking at all of these events out here. This is before I've heard about Ozzy, and I was like, this none of this is reflecting what I want on the inside, what and what I desire to see, which is for our people to move forward, for things to move forward, for us not to have to learn these lessons through pain and suffering and unnecessary loss of life. And so, of all the choices in front of me, I clearly see that none of these choices are real. They're not, they're all an illusion of the actual choice that I want, which is, again, no unnecessary loss of life and no unnecessary deaths. And so then I see this thing about Ozzy, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's it. That's the thing that reflects what I feel on the inside. Because again, I say this a lot, but you know, as humanity, we cannot move forward with these people still in charge. And so all these secret contracts and this secret stuff that they've been doing, it all has to be brought out. We cannot move forward with being a reasonable, responsible humanity if you have these dark forces constantly interfering with the direction that we're going. So imagine my shock and my surprise when I see a headline that says the Prince of Darkness is dead. Well, the Prince of Darkness, that's another name for Satan. And so it's like, oh my gosh, this is what I was looking for. This is what I asked for. This is the sign of exactly what I would expect to see if we as humanity were moving forward away from this dark energy and into the light. And like I mentioned, I had made 3 videos around the time of this conjunction in 2023. And I listened to them, and they were word for word things that I've been saying in the last few days. So I was like, okay, so this is a confirmation that we are moving forward. Like this cycle is closed out, because the same thing I was saying when you're trying to determine if you've closed out of a cycle, right? Especially when the cycle should be over. Pretty much how cycles work is, if you think about a clock, you start at 12 o'clock and you end back up at 12 o'clock. So if you are starting a cycle, whatever you start the cycle saying, you're pretty much going to end the cycle saying the same thing. And I would say that I was literally in the same place saying the same exact thing, like on this at the same time this cycle started. It's just really, really like crazy. And I said, no, this is it. Except in 2023, when I was observing the cycle, I which the cycle is again the north node opposite Mars, or the north or the south node conjunct Mars, depending on how you're looking at which point you're looking at. When we started this cycle in 2023, it was from a position of um I knew mentally in my head that what I'm seeing, what I'm supposed to see in front of me, is supposed to match my desire. I knew it in my head. Now, in this position, I know it. I know how to identify it physically. Like, I know how to physically pull that thing out of all the various options that are around me and say, okay, this is the thing that I see in my head. And as you're able to tap into that kind of specific energy, then you can go on to the next level. Because a lot of spiritual people and just in general think that this is a game of generalities, but it's not. It's a game of specificities for women, at least. I mean, for men it might be a game of generalities, but for women it's specificities, because we're the ones who have to be setting the agenda, setting the tone, making sure things are done right, checking all the boxes, dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's. And so if you can't physically pull out that thing, like when you like, I do a lot of events. When you do events, that idea for the event in your head has to physically manifest. Like, you have to physically be able to pull it out. And it doesn't mean every single detail has to be perfect, but the general feeling that you got about it, you have to be able to pull it out. And so and for men, I believe it's the opposite. When you guys get an idea in your head, you need to create multiple um pathways to achieving that thing. And that way, if one pathway doesn't work, you can just back up and take another path. Whereas women, we have to be as specific as possible, because again, when you give birth, you got to be as specific as possible. There's no, okay, I'm going to give birth, and if I live, if I die, that's okay. No, 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 no. I need to live. The baby needs to live. I need to be healthy. The baby needs to be healthy. Everything needs to go very well. It needs to go smooth. It doesn't have to be this. And we have to be very, very specific, because if you have a bunch of general paths in the process of giving birth, then you have way too many there's way too many options of things that can happen once you get like in the scenario that if okay, let me give you this example. When I had my son, I ended up having a C-section because I number one, I'm older than I was when I gave birth to my second child, so that's always a factor. The age is always a factor. But I had gotten an epidural, and epidural, what they do is it helps to numb like the half of your body that you're going to be using, so that it's not so much pain. And so in the process of that, my blood pressure had gotten extremely low. Like, they had to, I thought I was gonna die on the table. I was like, excuse me, like, I need something because my blood pressure. So all the sirens and stuff is going on, and they come in, they give me something, it brings my blood pressure back up to normal. So they're like, okay, do you want to try it again? And I was like, okay, that's fine. So they give me another dose. Again, my blood pressure is down. It's really bad. I'm not able to handle the epidural this time. So I was like, okay, my options are this. They're going to keep giving me this epidural, and I'm going to keep trying to push out this baby, or I can let them give me a C-section. So after the second time, I was like, I'm sure y'all want to keep trying this, but let's go ahead and do the C-section, because I don't think this is gonna work out. Like, and I had a 10-pound baby, so if you've never given birth, 10-pound babies are 10-pound babies. You kind of have to know in advance that you have a 10-pound baby if you're going to actually birth a 10-pound baby. Not so good to not know that, and I didn't know at all one way or another what was going on. So yeah, I was like, yeah, it's going. Let's go ahead and not have me die on the table. But that was a long. That was just a final choice and a long set of choices that said, if I'm going to give birth right now, which I didn't know I was pregnant, so if I'm going to give birth right now, if I'm actually going to give birth, then I'm going to live through this scenario, and so is my child. I'm going to be able to leave out this hospital in one piece. And so, when I went to the hospital, instead of going to the hospital, so I had made a bunch of choices. Instead of going to the hospital that I normally go to, I went to with my other two children. I went to a totally different hospital. And even in that, just the whole, I made a lot of choices so that I could make sure I got out of that place in one piece. Because again, I had to be really, really specific in order for that to come through. And so that's how women are. We have to make a lot of really specific choices. And men, you guys, you don't have as many, it's not necessarily going to kill you if you make a choice other than your first choice. You could make your fifth choice. You could make your fifth choice and come back and make your second choice and then make your Z choice. It doesn't matter. But for women, especially when it comes to the role that we're here to do, which is to give birth, you have to be really specific. And so all of the you in developing feminine energy, you have to be able to tap into that capacity to actually pull that choice out and apply it to what you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to get into feminine energy, if you're feminine trying to get into masculine energy, then you want to understand that, like I said about the events, it doesn't matter if the event is perfect. It matters that the feeling that you had about the event is actually played out. And like I have an example of that too. So like my daughter, we always have my oldest daughter, we have birthday parties for her. So her last birthday party, we had it was a album cover theme party or something like that. And so I had told her like, okay, we got this tent and we decorated it, we did the food and all of this stuff. But I was telling her, I was like, it's not going to be perfect. We just wanted to, you just want to, at the end of the day, make sure you had a good time and everybody there had a good time. So she had planned all these games and all this stuff. And I used to do a lot of bartending. So I set up a mocktail table and all this stuff. It was nice. It came out exactly the way that I expected it to, which was good. And she was talking about it afterwards. She was like, "Oh well, we could have did this, we could have did that," and I was like, "But we didn't need to. The event turned out well, so you don't have to necessarily nitpick on the stuff that you think you could have done better." Because then she went to other people's birthday parties and they didn't have anything. They didn't have stuff planned. They didn't have no games planned. They didn't have stuff set up. She was like, I would be embarrassed if I had a party and I didn't have anything planned. I would think people would be bored. And I said, that's the difference between how you are and how other people are. Everybody doesn't have the capacity to plan a bunch of events, I mean a bunch of games and all this stuff, so that nobody is bored. And it's a really interesting process when you get to see it, like, as a parent from the other side. Like, wow, like, it's really important to make sure people don't get super fixated on one point or another, because the idea or the goal is to be balanced in your energy, not to be over masculine or over feminine, but to literally balance your energy out. And so I hope that explained a lot of it, but I went on about this for a while.
Yeah, it was great for sure. I
Okay.
I definitely can um see in my life times where I'm very feminine. So in like a lot of the narratives that I have, like when God sends me messages, the feminine side of me is like it is going to be done. The vision is going to be accomplished. And then the
Right.
masculine side of me is, well, okay, I see the vision, and now like let me essentially begin to maneuver through reality in the way that I believe is best. And Sometimes it works out, other times it's like, okay, I need to shift course. So a good example is last year during summer, I got a message from God to walk on my toes. And that was the feminine side of me was like, that's it. We're going like that is what we're going to do. And so I came to the executive decision to at that time never allow my heels to touch the ground.
Mm.
Um, and then for 11 and a half months, I did not allow my heel to touch the ground. Through that process, I learned how to walk on my toes. I learned how to jog on my toes. Like I learned a lot of different processes, which is more of the masculine side, to fully understand what was I doing. But then up to the 11 and a half months, I got another download, which was, okay, you don't have to be so crazy about just walking on your toes. You can actually, you know, also walk normally and it's not going to kill you. So that was like the masculine side of me, where it was like the feminine was super gung ho about this very specific thing to accomplish. And then the masculine was like, hey, like, let's try
Yeah.
this out. Let's move it this way. Let's do it that way. And so it's very beautiful to see how when we really begin to embrace ourselves, how the masculine and the feminine sides of us begin to come about. Because you do need the feminine that is like super, I guess, in some ways, like focused and stubborn and like, it's going to get done. I see the vision. It's going to be done this way. And then the masculine, which is like, okay, I see the vision. It looks great. But like, let's start creating different um, let's be able to adapt to reality. And when you do both, the beautiful discoveries and I guess insights that we gain are very powerful, because if we have one or the other and only of that, that's where we really get lost. We get stuck. We get stuck in whatever distractive mechanisms we get into. And I think that is what you were talking about in the gap. That's like the gap is if
Yeah.
we don't have that connection, that divine union, the gap is what keeps people stuck, because it's almost like the wheel is not able to turn, because that bridge between the feminine and the masculine is not able to connect.
Right. I think that's really interesting way to put it. So it's almost like if you don't understand that you have a masculine and a feminine part of yourself, like it's not about you balancing your masculine energy and a feminine energy with someone else. It's about balancing it within yourself. So the mirror with the gap makes you think that there's a separation between the version of you who's standing here in the real world and the version of you that's in the mirror, the reflection. But in reality, there is no separation between you, the physical version, and the reflection. There's no difference between, like, when people think about the spirit realm, they think that for some reason in the spirit realm they're a different person, and that's not the case. You in the physical realm is the same version of you in the spirit realm, and the only time that it's not is if you are literally either being harvested or you're literally so deep in someone else's energy that you literally become a different person. So like for example, there are some people who when they dream or astral project or whatever, they get into other people's bodies. And I can say, and maybe this is an earth sign thing, so I'll qualify with that. I have never had a dream where I was anyone else in the dream other than myself. I've never I've never been in anyone else's body. I've never looked at the mirror and didn't see myself. Like that would be I would never allow that. I mean, people believe that just like they think with their partners. Like, okay, well, when I get with this partner or when I go into the spirit realm, I can be whoever I want. You have to be whoever you want in the physical realm. Then you can be whoever you want in the spirit realm. So in the physical realm, you believe you have big dragon energy. When you go into the spirit realm, you're going to be a dragon. Like, but that reflects who you are in the physical realm. Um, and this is why I kind of like I talk about people not being in their own energy, but a lot of people are just their creativity is so limited. Like the reason I can only be myself in the physical realm and in the spiritual realm is because of my astrology and also my Zolkin birth chart. Like I literally am a world bridger. Like I bridge different worlds, and so in order to do that, in order to take um one place that's totally different from another place and build a bridge, you have to be who you are in both places. So I can only talk and walk people through the process of building and rebuilding themselves in the spirit realm because I'm the same person in the spirit realm that I am in the physical realm. And people don't necessarily understand how that works or believe it, and then they take that lack of understanding and belief and they put it into a relationship, and so they feel like you know they go extreme on either masculine or feminine energy, and they when they get into the relationship, they're looking for someone to complement that extreme that they are in the physical realm. But if people come into more balanced energy, then it doesn't matter what your partner did. Like it becomes irrelevant in general. Like it just becomes irrelevant. You're doing something because you have a desire to do it, and it's not because if I don't have this man, I won't balance myself out. And a lot of people in relationships are in them because they need this person to dot 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 keep them from fighting, keep them normal, keep them this, keep them that. I'm like, I don't need nobody to do none of that. I can do that all for myself, and if someone is around while it's happening, that's fine. I mean, I've been like this for a long time, so it bothers me when I see people who are just incapable of finding this balance within themselves, and it comes in multiple forms. So like I have a friend, she's very much in masculine energy. And so she finds it very difficult to focus on a specific task. And so matter of fact, I know a lot of women like that. And as now that I think about it, because masculine energy, like I said, is one where you can follow multiple paths to a solution. And so it doesn't matter which path that you take as long as you get to the solution. And women who are in that energy, they don't focus on the process. And like we've been talking about, women have to focus on the process. So there's a lot of women who are shunning the process to focus on, well, did I get an answer? Did I get the solution? Did I accomplish this thing? And that's not, again, that's very masculine energy. So I had told her, several people, hey, you might want to focus on more feminine energy. And they were like, well, what do you mean by that? I said, well, the sun is feminine energy. And they're like, well, I thought the sun was masculine energy. I said, no, no, no. The sun is feminine energy because it always shines. So like yesterday, I went to the beach for sunrise. I hardly ever can get to the beach for sunrise because you have to get there really early, and there's no reason for me to be waking up that early. But I got up really early. I got to the beach around 5:30, so I was able to sit down and I watched the sunrise. And just the observation. Now, I didn't go there with an agenda. I just wanted to see what happens. This is what I mean by observing nature. Like I didn't have an agenda. I wasn't trying to learn a lesson. I wasn't trying to, force a connection, anything like that. I just wanted to observe what happened. And it was the most uh I can't even put into words what I experienced just observing the sunrise. So I could see the moon. When I got there, the moon was bright, and I think I could see Venus. So I could see the moon, I could see Venus. The sky was dark and the waves, and it's beautiful. And then a little bit, very, very subtly, at first the sky began to lighten, and I couldn't actually see the sun. I couldn't see the sun at all, actually, but I could see the effects of the sun. So as the sun began to rise, the sky just lightened up. And I was like, okay, where's the moon and where's Venus? I saw those. So I went back, I looked, I said, there's the moon and there's Venus. And every time the sky got a little bit lighter and a little bit lighter, and I was focusing on that, like, drama, because there's a lot of drama with sunrise and with sunset. It's very dramatic. The colors and the changes in the sky is very, very dramatic. But I kept saying, okay, when I got here, I was looking at the moon. I was looking at Venus. So where's the moon? Where's Venus? So every time I went back to look, where's the moon? Where's Venus? It's like the feminine energy of the sun just got more and more brighter, more and more dramatic, until I couldn't even see the moon anymore. I couldn't see Venus anymore. There was nothing left to look at but the drama of the sun. And then the next thing I knew, it was up far enough where you didn't have any of the pinks and peaches and all those kind of colors anymore. It was just like yellows and whites, and I was like, wow. And I still was like, can I see the moon? I could still see the moon, but I couldn't see Venus anymore. And I was like, this is really dramatic, because if I had just paid attention to the sunrise and hadn't kept looking back to see where the moon was and where Venus was, and if they had moved, I could have completely missed, like, the fact that they were gone. And that's kind of like how feminine energy is. It's it just takes over, and it's dramatic, and it just has a lot of different pieces to it, that especially when a woman is in feminine, or anybody, when someone is in feminine energy, they walk into a room and they completely outshine whoever is there. And so if you're a secure masculine, this doesn't bother you, because eventually that sun is going to go down, and then it's going to be your time to shine, and people will appreciate you for what you're doing. But if you're an insecure masculine, as that sun was, that's why I said, no, let me just keep looking for the moon. Like, if you're an insecure masculine, as the sun is rising and bringing all of this drama out, you are actually getting upset, because it's like, these people didn't come here for this. They came here to see me. I'm still shining. I never stop. Like, just how some men are. It's like, okay, all right. As I said, let me just keep looking. I didn't really come here to be disrespectful to the moon. I didn't even know I was going to see the moon. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was just an observer, but it felt disrespectful to just be like gawking at the beauty of the sun, as if the moon is not right there. It's like, bro, the moon's right there. Like, you can't just ignore the moon. Like, he was giving you light, got the light so that you can get onto the beach. And I was like, dang, that's true. Like, it's like the moon being the masculine energy. It's like, it's there when you need it, the exact support you need to get exactly done what you need to get done. But it's going to do it through, again, whatever needs to be done. But the feminine energy is going to bring the drama. It's going to bring the light. It's going to bring the chaotic energy that exposes um the range of potentials, and then focuses back in on why this particular choice that you're making is the proper choice. And so I think people should, if they can, like, observe the sunrise, like observe the sunset and the drama and the stuff that comes along with it, and then juxtapose that against how the moon operates. Because if you're out in the middle of the night and you see the moon, because the moon has moonrise and moonset times too, but when the moon rises, you don't really see the moon rise. Um, but when it's in its fullness, no matter what phase it's in, when it's in its fullness, and when it's closest to the earth, it is huge. And you're just like, oh my gosh, the moon is so beautiful. But imagine, like, I drive overnight a lot. And so imagine, like, when the sun starts rising and the moon is there, and it just gently bows out of its energy. It's not giving up its energy, but it's gently stepping back so that the feminine solar energy can put on this show. And that's literally like how it feels. Like the sun, the female energy puts on the show. and the masculine energy supports that. And so this ties into the whole conversation about hospitality that I wanted to have, because hospitality is the ability to observe the true nature of someone, of an event, of something, and support it with in the way that will help it, or help help you to gain the result that is going to be the most beneficial for that person. When you engage in hospitality, you step back out of the arena of this is all about me, and you put yourself into the arena of how can I help this person or this thing or whatever it is um reach its fullness. Because the thing about the sun is that even though the sunrise is beautiful, the fullness of the sun it doesn't happen until the middle of the day. So you can't get to the fullness of the sun without the sunrise or the sunset. But the sunrise and the sunset is not the fullness. The fullness is the middle of the day when the sun is the brightest and the harshest. And so while the sunrise and the sunset are both beautiful, they are very, very short lived. Because let me see, if I got to the beach at 5:30, by 6:30 the sunrise was over, and we were getting into the part of the sun that's like the full day. I would say by 7 o'clock it was out of those pretty colors and into the bright yellow and the bright white. And so even though again the sunrise is beautiful, it's dramatic, it's short lived. And feminine energy like that, the drama of the feminine energy is short lived. It's not something that's supposed to go on and on and on and on. And so when you have shows like Bad Girls Club and Baddies and all of these shows, they make you think that this aggressive, dramatic feminine energy is all day. So you have a bunch of women who are moody and whatever all day. And it's like, that's not really what it is. It's certain points of the day, there's drama, and then most of the day, you're just straight focused on what it is that has to be done, digging down and getting the work done. And for the moon, it's kind of like the opposite. When the moon rises, the sun is still out, so you don't even know that the moon has risen. And then when the moon gets to its full power, that is only when the feminine has taken its rest, and then the masculine gets to come into its full power. So the masculine energy and the feminine energy, they overlap, but not really. Like, and so some people are trying to be in masculine energy and feminine energy at the same time. Like, you can't really do that. You have to let the part of the energy that, again, back to the hospitality word, that's going to produce the result that you want. You have to let that energy shine and not bring the counterpart to that energy in before that particular energy has solved its come to its full conclusion. And that's a very nuanced thing to learn. And I don't think that people do a very good job at describing it. And so that's why you have people out here who don't understand the masculine energy or the feminine energy even within themselves. Because in when you look into the mirror that doesn't have a gap, there's no gap. So your masculine energy and your feminine energy are the same, but only one of those energies, the one that's in the real world, is physically manifest. The other part of that energy is not physically manifest, it's just a reflection. And so you can, if you can conceptualize what that's like, then you can really get an understanding of what is going on here. And most of the time people, they can't conceptualize that, because again, they gave us these magic mirrors with these gaps, and they made you think that you are separate from your feminine energy, just like or your masculine energy. They think the energies are separate. So just like whatever your partner is, as far as relationships are concerned, they are out there, but they make you think that you're separate from them. But the truth of the matter is, especially if you've heard of twin flames and stuff like that, you guys came here for the sole purpose of in interacting with each other. So you don't have to worry about if that person is out there or not. The problem is when you come into contact with that person, are you in the proper energy? And it's not just one person, like that's a whole nother thing. People think that there's only one soulmate, one twin flame. No, 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 no. There's many soul contracts because you've had many incarnations. So you if a soul contract with one person doesn't work, check that box off. Well, we gave it a try on this life cycle, so maybe next lifetime. And Erica Badu has a song. It's called Next Lifetime. It didn't work out this lifetime. Maybe next lifetime. Check that box off. Go to the next one because there's no way as um, humans who reincarnate. We've been here only. I mean, there are going to be some new humans here, but still, that doesn't mean you. This is your first incarnation on Earth, but is it your first soul incarnation? Probably not. So you just have to find the right people or the right person with the right frequency. But you can't find the right person with the right frequency if you don't have the right frequency within yourself and you're not able to hold your actual self together in a way that, you know, you can send out the frequency required to bring back what you want. So it's very feminine energy that men have to get into and women have to get into when if they're trying to attract a partner. You have to believe that there's someone out there for you and you have to be dead set on that person. You have a list of qualities that are important to you, the things that are non-negotiable, stuff like that, and then you have to figure out where people like that spend their time and go spend their time there. Like I'm trying to figure out, how I can get around more individuals with resources, and I'm like, I'm not spending my time anywhere where people with resources are. So I'm like, I need to join a country club. I need to join a yacht club. I need to go and be around people who have resources because this is the most time I've spent around people who don't have resources. I can feel that energy draining out of me because I'm used to being around people who have it so that it's not no issues like when you're trying to go somewhere. I want to go to um Thailand. Like I've never not been around people who, when you said something like, "Oh yeah, I want to go to Thailand for a week," at least one person wasn't like, "Oh yeah, I want to go too." I looked at those plane tickets. I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is like $5,000." I mean, it's going to be cheap once you get there, but the flight is going to be expensive. So who am I even around that has the capacity to find that would be a worthwhile investment? I'm not very many people, so I know that I'm not around the right group of people. And so, how can I possibly meet my full potential when I know I'm not around the right group of people? So it's an inside job, but it takes multiple steps, and it is important to physically be around people because you want to um harness the energy that they're carrying naturally. Most people who have money, or like if even if you're looking for a partner, like most people who have a partner that is a successful relationship, they have excess energy oozing off of them that you can just as a friend, use that energy to get on the proper frequency, and it's not something that's bad. But if you're in a bad relationship and you're around nothing but people who are in bad relationships, when it comes time for you to try to find someone who is on the vibration that you want, the vibration you're putting out is a vibration of bad relationships because that's all you're around. So that whole thing of, you are who your closest five friends are, is true to an extent. Like you want to be around people who are successful. Otherwise, you don't want to be around anybody because you need to get your energy into alignment with your masculine or your feminine, and then you can kind of move on from there. But it's really like either or when you're trying to set your sail of what you want your life to look like.
Yeah, very powerful. I love the way that you speak about the dynamics of the sun and the moon. I think that has so okay, so you said there was a part here that you said, let's see. Something about you entering Okay, so when someone is in feminine energy, they walk into the room, and they just shine? They just take it over?
Yes. Yes, it just when you when you like you can look at the old movies and see this. Like when like Marilyn Monroe or one of these women walked into a room, they were the center of attention.
Yeah.
Like they nobody could take their eyes off of them. And that happens now too. It's not this happens to me all the time. I live, I ooze feminine energy. So I'm always trying to cover it up, which is not good. And I have to really work on that. But it's really difficult to always walk into a
Mhm.
room and then because I also have a very prominent Uranus placement, which means like it makes it impossible to hide in a circle. Like I cannot hide behind anybody. So when I walk into a room, I could be dressed, I could be not dressed, no matter what. Everybody turns around and like looking at me and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like I just walked in here. Let me just not that everybody's going to come and talk to me, but I just naturally become the center of attention. I'm just I'm that unusual of a person that when I come into a space, I stand out. And so that's feminine energy though. When you
Mm.
walk into a space, you stand out. There's men like that too that carry that carry that specific feminine energy. But the masculine energy is a sneaker. Like you didn't see them walk in the room, but when they get into their element and they're talking about whatever that thing is that is their passion, you can see it from you could be having a conversation about something else and you turn around and you like, what are they talking about? Because look at the way that he's talking about this thing. And it's very it's it's subtle because you don't really, unless you're paying attention to those specific dynamics, you don't notice it. And it takes time for you to get to the point where you can figure out whenever you go somewhere who is in their big feminine energy and who is in their masculine energy. And I can do it because like I said, I worked at a restaurant, and so when you are interacting with so many different kinds of people, you start to see the dynamics. Now, I didn't have words for this when I was working at the restaurant, but now I have words for it. Like I can describe it and I can go back and say, okay, this is what I was seeing. Because like when the men came in where I worked, it was some very feminine women. Like the lady, it was a female who owned the restaurant, extremely feminine energy. And it was some very masculine men, and so the men, you never really noticed them until they started talking about the wine that they brought or their boat because it was on a marina. So they had boats or something. And then all of a sudden, like the whole room is like participating in the conversation that this man is having about his boat. And you might not know nothing about boats. I learned a lot about boats as a result of being around these men, but they know. And so once you see how these dynamics flow together, then it's much easier for you to pick your point in which to enter the conversations. And because all of this is about guiding the resources that you need to yourself and not harvesting. I said guiding. So people want to help you. If you are in feminine energy and you go into a group of women who are not in feminine energy, they will want to help you because they see the feminine energy in you and that it resonates with the feminine energy that they don't necessarily have. This is why you see like a lot of gay men, they're always with a group of women because a lot of women, they see that feminine energy in them and they're made comforted by
Mm.
it. And so therefore they're going to go out of their way to make sure that man stays comfortable. If you're a woman, if you're a man, let's say, like, for example, if I'm hanging out with a group of men, which I used to do all the time, this was my main thing. I only spent time with men. Especially in high school, all my friends were males. I spent nothing but time with men. If they see that you're like really interested in what they're talking about, and I knew nothing about I didn't watch no sports. I didn't know nothing about basketball. I didn't know nothing. I only thing I watched was football, and I still didn't really know what was going on. Like I wasn't into sports. But when I sat around the dudes, I would just sit and pay attention. And so because I wasn't um interjecting my feminine energy, like, can you explain that? What does that mean? Why would you do that? Like I wasn't interjecting with that. I was just sitting and listening because I was genuinely curious about what it was that they were talking about. um I gained a lot of valuable lessons as a result of that. I also never had a problem being in people's groups in school, finding partners to work on stuff because the guys knew, hey, I was going to show up, I was going to do my part, and I wasn't going to go into this whole, feminine, dramatic, whatever fallout if there was some kind of a problem. Whereas, in high school, pretty much that's what you have all day. Females going to weird drama situations and making things horrible for everybody. So I stayed away from that. So I was able to gain a lot of direct experience with men as a result of that, just by itself. Not um being so much in my feminine energy, or just knowing when to be in feminine energy and when to stick to masculine energy.
Yes. Awesome. I love it. Um, yeah, I find it very interesting in the because what I've noticed is when like I can basically shift, almost like shapeshift. I could enter
Mm-hmm.
rooms and be in my feminine and be and then well, either I can consciously shapeshift or it just is purely energetic based. So there are days where I
Right.
walk into the room and I'm just gonna make a scene, even when I don't want to make a scene. And then there are days that I can actually hide. Like I could actually like kind of sneak in almost and kind of blend with the crowd. And then slowly, if I do care to, begin to express myself on the masculine side. But I always find it very interesting when I'm really into my feminine and I walk into the room and well, so it's funny because I walk into the room and it's like subtle and then I could just boom bring it out. Like I could just explode it. I could just explode the feminine. So
Right.
it's almost like you throw a grenade into the room and it's still quiet. Nobody knows that the grenade has been thrown and then when the grenade blows up, everybody's like what the fuck is going on? So the
Right.
women
Yes.
are going crazy because they're really attracted to this man that is oozing this feminine energy, while the men get really triggered. They get really jealous. They get really upset
Yes.
because they're like, who is this guy? Who does he think he is? And I'm just there. I'm not, I'm not out here
Right.
like chimping out, doing gymnastics. Like I am just there in my essence, allowing the energy to flow. So it's very fascinating. It it adds a lot of color when you begin to see it in the lens of the sun and the moon dynamic. I think that it helps. It's
Yeah.
very helpful because as you were saying, like if you understand the sun and the moon dynamics, you can basically begin to apply it to your own life and see how it plays out in your own life. And that really is the more you do that, it's that bridge that you were saying, that gap closes in. And instead of
Yes.
going into the room saying, "Oh, I gotta be masculine," or, "I gotta be quiet," or "I gotta do this," you just allow the energy to flow as it's supposed to flow, as opposed to trying to
Right.
conform oneself to, "This is what I'm supposed to be."
Yeah, and it also gives you the opportunity to choose which side you're going to be on. So, for example, if you're going to like a dinner, a charity dinner, or something like that, and you know that you are trying to you pick this event to go to because you're trying to meet someone who does X, Y, and Z, and you have to be able to float seamlessly around the room and figure out what everybody does. And then at the same time, when you find the person who does what it is you need to do, what is you're trying to figure out, what it is you're trying to find, then you have to be able to appeal to whatever is native to them. So if they're a man, that would be masculine energy. If they're a female, that would be feminine energy. So you can take all of this knowledge and use it to expand your circle, because we're talking about the capacity to be around other kinds of people, finding partners and stuff like that. And so if you are able to control it, like down to that, the best what are they called? Grifters, like the show. There's a TV show called Leverage, and there's a lady. She was a grifter, and what she could do is when she came into the room, you may not have even noticed that she came in. But whatever it is she was trying to accomplish, she literally could get it done. Just change of an accent, change of just little stuff. And that's how you can get down to being that specific, because this stuff has to have practical use. Like, you don't just use this information to like get a partner and then you never use it again, especially once this is the part I don't like you spend years trying to develop these very, very, very um detailed skills for interacting with people, and basically they tell you like after you've developed a skill that you only basically get to use it to find a partner, and then that's it. Like, you can't use it to actually make money, get in the door where you need to get in. Or they, like, for females, what they do is they have you learn all of these skills, because like I said, a lot of this stuff I learned in high school, from the programs that I was in, and I just learned it in high school. And so they tell you, okay, well, don't get married because you're going to need to use those skills to get a job, go here, go there. Especially if you want to be in business, then you're going to need to use this to network and all of this stuff. And so there's this huge push for females to gain this knowledge, this skill of this very difficult self-control, use it to either build someone's company up and not to get a husband, and just let them give you a husband, which is nuts, or to use it to get a husband. And then once you get a husband, you're never able to use it anymore because he's triggered when you actually use it to get other things done. And being that I was like in the entertainment industry and stuff like that, I always had a problem with that because I could always get my way into whatever door I was trying to get into. But these guys that I was talking to, they would have a problem with that. They would be like, "Oh, where are you? What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm at the studio. I'm with this artist. I'm with that artist. I'm doing what this is. This is what I trained myself to do. You mean to tell me I can only use this with you? You're not going to get me where I'm trying to go. No offense, not being offensive, but I'm. These are totally different things. I got to use this to actually advance my career, and they don't like it. So there's this whole just a whole, again, a lack of hospitality where the man is okay when the woman is um in feminine energy so much that she got you, but then if she uses her feminine energy to get a job, that's a problem. Because you could use your feminine energy to get a job and then you just neutralize it out in the masculine energy. And that doesn't mean you already got the job, you're already in the door. But again, this has to deal with also boundaries, people understanding their roles. A lot of these professional prostitutes have messed this whole thing up because they're always in energy they shouldn't be in spaces they shouldn't be in. And so it makes other people who aren't triggered by any of this stuff, it makes it hard for them because then these women are doing stuff they shouldn't be doing in spaces they shouldn't be doing. And if you're just a normal person who learned all of these very difficult, like I said, self-management skills, you can't even use them because you got these prostitutes in here who don't have no boundaries. So it doesn't work anymore. Like the way, that's why you don't see people like the way they were in the 50s, because you got these people who are for sale on the men and women actually who are for sale that always in this very aggressive energy, and you can't you can't figure out how to navigate against people who are over the top in their masculine or their feminine energy.
Yes, love it. Yeah, I definitely yeah, hospitality really is, as you said, it's like allowing people to, like, providing the space both energetically, physically, but really I think energetically to flourish. And
Yes.
as a man to do that, that requires there's times where it's going to require you to be more in your feminine, and there's times where it's going to require you to be more in your masculine, as well as vice versa from women to both men and to both women. So for us to learn how to embrace hospitality, how to really tap into this power is like, because if I'm a man and I am to provide hospitality to those around me, how am I to do that if I've just been basically psyoped to just fixate on being masculine or whatever being masculine is? I can't be I can't be hospitable. I can't provide the nourishment, the fertile land energetically to enable others to elevate, grow, and be empowered if I don't know how to utilize my feminine. Because if I'm not embracing of my feminine, then my masculine is distorted. And if my masculine is distorted, then what am I really providing to people? In many ways, I'm not providing alignment. I'm not providing, because sure, I could in some ways be hospitable, but like, what true hospitality is, at least in the energetic sense, is that when people come to your sphere of influence, you're an oasis in the desert. And in an oasis, you allow them to feel comfortable. You allow them to put their guard down. You allow them to be vulnerable. You allow them to have a safe space to rest as well as to grow. And most
Right.
people, because they have not embraced their inner feminine and inner masculine, or have no concept of doing that, it's like it's not an oasis, because one now has to almost defend themselves from their programming and from their insecurities and their traumas and their projections onto you. So where's the oasis? There is no oasis. But if we are able to do the work, we become that oasis. And obviously, in any oasis, can you imagine the hospitality that comes from a beautiful resort, a getaway destination where you're fully served energetically in every aspect? And when you are
Right.
truly able to provide that hospitality, it almost becomes impossible for people to not become to becomes impossible for them to not become devoted to you, for them to not become loyal to you. They're going to be around you. They're going to be seek you out because you are the oasis. So they can go wherever they want to go, as you were saying, kind of with in the earlier relationships that you had. It's like they wanted to control you. They wanted to keep you around. They wanted to kind of keep you beholden to them. But when you are truly an oasis, you can go out. Go out, keep go like, go and find yourself, go and keep going in the desert. The chances are, you being the oasis, they're always gonna come back. They're always gonna come back to your content, to what you have to say, to who you are, to your energy, because you are the oasis in a place where it's littered with propaganda. It's littered with misalignment. It's littered with chaos that does not allow the being to fully rest and to fully tap into their power.
The concept of rest is really important in this. The idea is that we are not designed to work 24/7. And all the examples that I give, this is not like I've always got to put on a mask and be wandering around being someone that I'm not. When you're in your proper energy, when you're out in these settings and you have to meet those people or whatever, that's when you have that That's when you use that skill. It's a skill. But when you, like you said, when you come back home, you are in a like a homeostatic pace. Like you're at a balance. You're not overly one way or another. You're just, I'll just say like you're your baseline. And so a lot of people don't have a baseline that is a baseline of peace. And that's when you go, like, hospitality has the word hospital in it. Hospitals are supposed to be peaceful. That's the whole idea. Now, modern hospitals are not peaceful, but if you go to, I think I mentioned this before, they have nursing homes, and they're for Christian scientists. And if you don't know about Christian Science, it's a um anyway, it's like it's still Christianity, but it's just kind of it's based on the thought, or it's based on the idea that your body can be healed through words spoken to you in a particular way that causes your own body to respond with health. I think that's a like you heal your body can be healed through the reading, and through reading and rationality, and not necessarily through or can be preserved through reading and rationality. So if you go to a